Hey guys, welcome back to RonMan Gaming. RonMan here as always, and it's been 35 years since the release of the original Legend of Zelda, and today the Skyward Sword HD comes out for the Switch. So to celebrate 35 years of Zelda and the release of Skyward Sword, I thought I would share with you my 5 favorite Zelda games. Spoiler alert. Skyward Sword is not on the list. Also, if you like my content and you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as that bell notification so you stay up to date with RonMan Gaming. Alright, coming in at number 5 is Majora's Mask 3D. Although I do like the N64 version of Majora's Mask as well, I really just have to go with the 3D version. Honestly, the main reason is that, well, the N64 version has so many pointless annoyances. I'll give just one small example. In the N64 version, in the Oceanside Spider House in the Great Bay, if you complete it, you get the giant wallet, but only if you complete that on the first day. If you complete it on day 2 or 3, you just get rupees. Why? Why did they do that? Why can't you earn it on any day? Well, in the 3DS version, you can. And that is how the game should have been. And that's just one small example. I mean, there are tons of little annoying things like this in the N64 version that were all ironed out in the 3DS version. So once you get rid of all these little annoyances, Majora's Mask is a fantastic game. First off, I love the 3-day cycle. For a game that's so grim, the 3-day cycle adds a lot of life to Termina. It's neat that very specific things happen on each day, and that you can't do everything all in one run. It adds a sense of urgency to each 3-day cycle, but at the same time, you don't really need to worry because you can always reset the cycle. I also really enjoy the dungeons. Now, sadly, this game only has 4, but they're all really good. The boss fights are all really cool, and I love how each dungeon has the optional Stray Fairy side quest. Because there are only 4 dungeons, that means that there's so much to do outside of the dungeons as well, and most of it is pretty fun. And finally, I love how dark this Zelda game is. It's so dark, and it does it seemingly without even trying. Majora's Mask, like the mask itself, is visually disturbing and has dark, mysterious powers which then possess the Skull Kid. Another thing too, imagine you had 3 days left to live, and you knew that you were going to die, and that there was nothing that you could do to stop that. Well, that's what happens in Majora's Mask. I mean, many of the NPCs are fully aware that the moon is slowly crashing toward the planet, and if it does, or really, rather, when it does, game over, man. Do you know how in other Zelda games, Link just kind of takes care of Ganon, and most of the NPCs are, like, unaware of what's happening? Yeah, maybe a few people know what's up, but for the most part, everyone's kind of ignorant. But in Majora's Mask, everyone knows that they will be dead soon. And that's creepy. Now really, I could go on all day about how dark and grim this game is, but we have 4 other games to get to. Coming in at number 4 is Link's Awakening. Now, Link's Awakening is the 4th Zelda game to ever be released, and it was the first to be on a handheld, the Game Boy, to be exact. You know, Link's Awakening is kind of eerie too, with that big mysterious egg perched up on a mountain. What if that thing falls? People would get fucked up. Anyway, my mom got this for the original Game Boy back in, like, what was it, 93? And I remember taking this to school all the time and just playing it at recess. In 1998, Link's Awakening DX was released, and oh my god, I could not wait to play this. Color and an optional dungeon? Sign me up, Johnny. I absolutely love the fact that they added the red and blue tunics. Like, I was just, for whatever reason, I was a big fan of being able to change equipment, and I loved the blue tunic. Now fast forward to 2019 and Link's Awakening gets a remake on the Switch, which was also fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the thing that I really like is that the Switch version of Link's Awakening doesn't make the DX version obsolete, at least not for me. Now overall, Link's Awakening is a smaller, shorter Zelda game, but let me tell you, it's all killer, no filler. Coming in at number 3 is the Oracle series. Yes, I know that these are 2 games, but really you're supposed to link them together to make one big adventure, and it's so good. I actually just replayed these games a little bit earlier this year, and they still hold up. The Oracle series does a really good job at respecting the series' traditions, as well as adding in new and interesting mechanics. By this point in the Zelda series, we had already experienced time travel, Light World and Dark World, but in the Oracle series, not only do we get to experience past and present, but we get to experience the land in all seasons. Now when it comes to the Oracle series, you can play whatever game you want first, and when you beat that game, it gives you a password that you enter at the beginning of the other game. For example, you play Ages first, and then when you go to play Seasons, with the Ages password, there's like all kinds of extra items and areas that you can have access to that you wouldn't had you played Seasons first. And then you can also do the opposite. After you beat it fully, you can then start with Seasons and then get the password for Ages, and then Ages will be different. So there's just a lot of replay value here, and it's just a good adventure. I mean, the whole thing is just so much fun. The story here is a lot of fun, and between both games, there's just so much to do and to see. Coming in at number 2 is the original Legend of Zelda. 35 years later, and the original is still such a fun game. I actually just replayed this a few weeks ago, and in my opinion, it still holds up great. It really is staggering how much this game provides a sense of exploration, considering how old it is. Its non-linear gameplay really does make this feel like an open-world NES game. The controls are great, the dungeons are fun, the overworld is huge, and overall this really does feel like an adventure. After you beat this game, you're given the option to play a second quest, which basically changes the locations of dungeons and shops. The dungeons are much more difficult, and the layouts are also very different. You can also access the second quest by entering your name in as Zelda. It's a really great feature that really extends the replayability of this fantastic, timeless adventure. Okay, and coming in at number 1 is Zelda, the Wand of Gamelon. Okay, I know this is really weird. A CDI game is my favorite. Listen, please don't roast me. I get it, we all have our opinions. But my mom got me a CDI back in the 90s, and this was the first game I got, and I'm fucking with ya. A Link to the Past, of course. Now, I'm sure this was a surprise to absolutely nobody, but yeah, this is my absolute favorite Zelda game. I quite honestly love everything about it. The music, the graphics, the dungeons, the items, the controls, and of course, all the memories that I have associated with it. For my 5th birthday, I still remember this, my 5th birthday, my mom got me a Super Nintendo packed in with Super Mario World, and my granddad, who just lived across the street, got me The Legend of Zelda. I don't remember much from when I was 5 years old, but of course I remember the time I got Zelda and Super Mario and a Super Nintendo. Yeah, I was totally born a gamer. In fact, I probably had a controller in my mom's uterus. Anyway, A Link to the Past really just takes everything that the original Zelda did and just enhances everything. It still maintains that open world aspect to a degree, but just makes everything bigger and more visually pleasing. The dungeons are more interesting and more complicated, the bosses are bigger and more terrifying, there are tons of new items and equipment, the music is fantastic, the controls are great, and overall it's an adventure that I will never forget. But also probably because I play it all the damn time. I will play this game until I die. I hold it very close to my heart, and it's just such a good game. I absolutely love it. So there you have it, guys. Those are my top 5 favorite Zelda games. Why don't you tell me what your top 5 are down in the comments below. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as that bell notification, and I will see you next time.